Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Live here, and today we're going to be taking a look at what we believe to be the finest games coming to the Nintendo Switch in the month of December. December. Yes, it's that time of year once again, but Nintendo Switch games are still coming out, and we're going to detail just some of what we think to be the best of. This isn't an exhaustive list, as this never is, but it's merely what we consider to be the cream of the crop, the best of the bunch, the banana of the fruit bowl. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. Starting things off on the 3rd of December, we have Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain by Nintendo. It's been bloody yonks since the last Big Brain Academy game. I played the one on the Switch very briefly, and I enjoyed my time with it, but I never had an opportunity to properly get into it, and so I'm really keen to give this one a go. It's got an online mode where you can play against ghosts of people who have played before, which I think is probably quite a sensible way of doing it, and, you know, it looks like it's actually going to be really good fun. And, you know, sort of almost a party game in some ways. I don't know. John says it is good as a party game. I think it looks really promising. Fingers crossed that I'm not wrong. On the very same 3rd of December, we have Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony, and Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp. If you couldn't tell, 4 games from the Danganronpa series. Now, I am simply just not qualified to talk about these games because I don't know enough about them, but I know a different person who is more qualified than I am, and they're going to talk for a bit now instead.
Hey, it's me, John, a different person talking, although some of you might not know the difference, but yeah, Danganronpa. On the 3rd of December, the entire series comes to Switch in Danganronpa Decadence, but you can buy them all individually on the eShop. Now, the first Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, came out on PlayStation Portable 11 years ago in Japan. We got it in the West in 2014 on PlayStation Vita, where we all played it, right? And since then, this franchise has been something of a niche phenomenon. All the games in the series follow the same beats, and they are pretty similar. Basically, you get trapped in a building, or some location that's ruled by Monokuma, the evil bear. It's a little bit of a slice of life for a while, if that slice of life were in a barricaded school that you can't leave, but then Monokuma tells you you can leave if you're the only student left alive. The game turns into a moral struggle, and as it goes on, the students slowly start to kill each other. But there's a twist. When someone's killed, there's a trial, and if you can discover the murderer, that person dies too. If you can't, everyone but the murderer dies. If you love visual novel adventure games like Ace Attorney or Famicom Detective Club, you'll love Danganronpa. Then there's the second game, Goodbye Despair, and this is largely in the same footprint as the first game. People murder each other, you do trials, you try and survive. It's all the same formula. Only this time, instead of a school, there's a beach. This means there's a lot more swimsuits than the first game, and it definitely goes for a different vibe. The carnage is also turned up a lot. The first game can be quite brutal, but Danganronpa 2? It goes places. Then there's the final core game in the series, Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. Not to be confused with Danganronpa 3, which is an anime. So again, V3 doesn't steer too far from the formula set by the first game. There's a new school, new characters, and a new killing game. Solve murders, survive, yada yada yada. A lot of the cool stuff in V3 is spoiler territory, so for now we'll stay a bit quiet. But just know, this is one of the more outrageous games in the series, and with around 40 hours in length, there's a lot of game in here. The others are definitely lengthy too, but this one delivers on quantity and quality. For such a long story, the pacing's spectacular. There's definitely a split reception with this one. Some fans consider it the best in the series, and others consider it the worst. But that just means it does something interesting. And if you don't like this, well, there's 2 other Danganronpa games. But we can't forget Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp. This is a brand new game. It's basically an elaborate board game based off a mode from V3. Characters from across the entire series come together, so there's some fan service in here, but whether it has the depth to stand on its own, you'll have to see in our review. Is this more Mario Party, or more Amiibo Festival?
Thanks, John. I have zero idea what you just said. Moving on to the 7th of December, we have Life is Strange True Colors. Now, this was supposed to come out earlier, but it didn't. I've always been aware of the Life is Strange series, and I've always been quite keen to get into it, but it's just another one of those games on my list that I've never been able to get around to. But now, this one's coming to Switch, and it's not the original, but you know what? I'll take it. I love the art style. I love how good it seems to be looking on Switch as well. Obviously, we don't know 100% for certain how it's going to run, but I'm quietly confident about it, I think. The best part about the whole game, though, is that the main protagonist looks an awful lot like one of my colleagues, Kate. That's fun. On the very same 7th of December, we have Love 3. Now, I saw this and I was like, there was a Love 2? I really enjoyed the original Love. It was a very stripped back, very bare bones kind of experience, but I really liked it for its simplicity and the wonderfully, like, ultra basic art style. And it was just a good, fun, raw platformer. And then apparently there was a second one, and that completely passed me by. This is, unsurprisingly, the third game in the series, and it includes a load of brand new levels, as you would expect for a new game, but it also includes the entirety of the levels from Love and Love 2. I've got a feeling it's called like Love 2S or something, but I forget. As I said before, it's a very stripped back, very basic kind of platformer, and yet it's very engaging. If you like the look of it and it's invoking some kind of nostalgia for you, which it certainly did for me. I used to go around a friend's house and they'd have some sort of old home computers set up. The father was a massive nerd like I am now. I hope Patrick's proud of me. And these are the sort of games that we could get running on them. It definitely tickles a very weird part of my nostalgia gland. But for that, I can't argue. It looks good. Sticking around on the 7th of December, we have a bit of a sort of a heartstring plucker, Ever Forward. This is a puzzle game where you play as a young girl, and I don't want to say too much because I already feel like I've learned too much in my research for this video. But suffice it to say, it looks like a good, solid 3D puzzle, not really a platformer, just sort of a puzzle game, a 3D, third-person puzzle game, I think is the best way to describe it. A Portal-like, there we go, I'll just say it. It's got bucket loads of charm. This also was supposed to come out sooner, but unfortunately, time makes fools of us all. It looks very sweet, very slick, and I just want to learn more about it, but I feel that the best way to do that would be to actually play the game, rather than do the amount of research that I did, which I think kind of spoiled things a bit for me. Whoops. Then on the 8th of December, we have Sam & Max Beyond Time and Space, which is a Sam & Max game. For a long time, I didn't really get Sam & Max as an idea. It just didn't quite sort of compute in my head. Not the gameplay, just the characters. Something about them, I looked at them and I was just like, what? It's a relatively simple point-and-click adventure game, but it's got bumloads of charm in there, and more importantly, this is all the episodes. The original release was weird, like there was this phase where especially Telltale Games would release games in like episodes, and I had like the Wallace and Gromit one, and that I enjoyed it. I never downloaded a future episode, though. I'm glad all that's been done away with, and we're just getting the whole meaty package right here, right now. It's a genre that I have a lot of affection for from back in the old PC days with things like Koala Lumpur's Journey to the Edge, and I'm up for this. I'm right up for this. Moving on to the 9th of December, we have Loop Hero, which I initially thought was just like, hey, it's another roguelike or a roguelite, but no, it's way more original than that. Your character moves around on a set path and just keeps going in a loop. Oh, that's where they get the title from. And you don't actually control them. Your job instead is to kind of sort of help them along by building things around them, like different environments and things like that can help them along and sort of give them the edge against all the nasty enemies that come their way. I have never heard of a game like this prior. Maybe there has been one. I suppose in some ways you could argue it's a little bit like a tower defense game, but I think you're kind of stretching. The loops that your character will go through are all randomly generated, so it should in theory be like replayable forever. I mean, it is kind of roguelike at the same time as well. I wasn't entirely wrong at the start. I like it. I think it's got mad promise. I hope it lives up to that promise, of course, but right now I'm looking at this and, as I said before, I've never seen anything like that, and that's exciting. On the very same 9th of December, we have Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX, which is one release, not two. This is the original two Monster Rancher games brought up to date, and anyone who's played Monster Rancher may well be thinking, oh, hang on, how's this going to work without all the CDs that I can put into the disk drive in order to get some monsters? And to that I say, they found a way, rather than actually having CDs read, which obviously wouldn't work unless there's some really weird convoluted way, but it's just not worth it. Instead, the game contains a massive database of like all the CDs you can imagine, apparently. I mean, we'll see. I've got some pretty obscure ones that I can search. And depending on what you choose from all the many options, that will, determine it. It's like a digital database of CDs. In fact, that's literally what it is. I think it looks like fun. After I saw the graphics, I realized that I was slightly more familiar with this game than I thought I was. I remember my old friend George playing this and me not playing it. I seem to remember some really weird stuff happening, but it looked bloody entertaining and definitely original, so I'll give it that. And finally, on the 13th of December, we have Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, which is, can you tell, it's a puzzle game. I'm a big fan of Shovel Knight, I'm a big fan of puzzle games as well, and this definitely has me intrigued, but there is definitely a little part of me, I'm not gonna lie, that's a little bit worried that it's a little bit too complicated. Like, I don't know what's going on. No, really. I've read all the materials, I've watched all the videos, I think I know what's happening, but I'm not certain. Regardless, Yacht Club never put out anything unless it's really good, so I've got complete confidence in them, but I am keen to get hold of it just so I can understand what the bloody hell's going on. That's enough. And there you have it. That is our selection of the cream of the crop, the real top layer of games being released this festive season on Nintendo Switch. Do you have another opinion? Maybe you considered a game that was supposed to be coming out in December but isn't anymore, and that makes you a bit sad. Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you wrap that subscribe button in small lights, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. You want to get down? Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. You rummage in the bin, you get picked up. Them's the rules.